Hey, I'm Bon. Let's talk about games. Specifically, I'm just gonna riff a little bit on a subject I've seen come up a few times fairly recently on whether or not games are as fun as they used to be. Now, it's a pretty broad subject, right? And it's a very, very subjective one. Your take on this is going to be different than mine. But I feel like I've noticed a few things that are at least worth like mentioning and kind of throwing out there. And I'm really curious to what you think of it. So please let me know down in the comments. I had a few people say they kind of wanted more of these, general gaming videos, kind of takes and stuff. So here we are. Here it is. So, do I think games are less fun than they used to be? Well, I think it's a complicated subject, right? I think that there's multiple factors that both are individual and maybe community wide or something else. So the main one is I'm getting older. So this is my personal take. I'm 34. I started gaming in the early 90s when I was a fairly young child, playing, like Nintendo, Super Nintendo, the old Sega systems and things like that. And one thing about then is that, at least for me, it was novel. It was new. I can't remember the systems I had. I believe I had a Sega Genesis. I had the Super Nintendo for sure. I believe I had a Nintendo as well. And I didn't have them. Family members or whoever had them. And they would have like two games, right? Because it was novel. People back then, at least people like us, didn't have like, you know, a shelf full of games, and there weren't that many games to have compared to now, right? And so I think back then games were like kind of more, they were like a novelty to a point. Now, not to say the games weren't good. I mean, some of those classic like Mario games and stuff like that are still like hold up to this day. But I think there was just a different attitude about games, right? You also have to factor in that the internet didn't really exist yet. And so, games were a little more rare, they were a little more novel, and you didn't have this constant berating, of, random people's takes. You didn't have anyone on Reddit telling you that your take on Super Mario Brothers was wrong. At least not back then. You probably do now. So I don't think games are less fun now. I think in some ways games are more fun than they've ever been. I think it's just the noise around them has changed a lot, right? There's always conversation I see about whether, in my experience in the Division community or with Mass Effect and things like that, where you'll see someone say like, well, the community wants this or that, or doesn't want that or this. And it's always interesting to me because if you look at any given gaming community, quote unquote, you'll see, like a subreddit or a forum, and you'll see like a few thousand, maybe tens of thousands of people. But you're not getting the take of every one of those people on every single subject. Maybe a few hundred at most. And then you really start thinking about that, and it's like, well, if a few hundred people think a thing about a game that 15 million people have purchased and a few 100,000 are playing at, in a given time frame, is the opinion of some people on a subreddit or something really that big of a deal? But those people, either on a subreddit or on Twitter and stuff, affects the way you feel about a game. Reviewers, content creators, things like that. Whether you even take their takes seriously, consciously or not, you subconsciously are taking all of that noise in, right? And I know I catch myself with this all the time. And so I think this all comes back around to this idea of like, are games as fun as they used to be? And I think they are. I think games are more creative than they've ever been, depending on what games you're going after. there's just so many games, and there's so much, crap out there, but there always has been. Even back in the 90s and before that, there was, crappy games they just pumped out to get something on a cartridge that people would just buy because you didn't have the internet to see reviews and things like that. And I'm meandering a bit, I know, but I don't think things are as bad as some people think they are. I think games are great. I think that it's really important. I don't think you can avoid the noise, and you maybe you shouldn't avoid it. I think it's okay to be part, if you want to be, of that conversation and stuff. I do think there is this ideal of like, oh man, I sure wish I was the person who could just, who never looked at a single subreddit, a single social media, and I just bought games and just played them, and either I enjoyed them or I didn't, and I had no outside influences. And that is like an ideal, right? I think in today's, in this day and age with so many games and stuff, though, that could be a very expensive way to do it. And I don't know. I mean, part of the fun is the engagement, right? Me making a video like this and some of the other videos I make, I tend not to delve into the drama and all the clickbait and stuff as much as some others do, but it is still fun to have these conversations and to just kind of chat about this kind of stuff. So I guess getting back to my main point, and I think I've said it a couple times now, but I do think games are as fun as they've ever been, if not more so. I think that it just really depends on how you can or can't handle the noise around games. Don't subject yourself to it just for the pain, right? What's the point? Don't do it. Don't do it to yourself if it makes you upset. My whole philosophy at this point is, if anything having to do with a game makes you angry or sad or whatever, just don't bother. Don't bother with it. If every time I see, in any of the communities I'm a part of, I'll see someone be like, this thing makes me sad about this game, and they'll go on to this rant about how this game didn't do a thing that they wanted it to do or whatever. And it's like, stop it. It shouldn't make you sad. You're choosing to let that happen. If a game makes you sad, don't play it unless it's like a good sad, it's like an emotional game. But like if the Division 2, if the PvP isn't good and that makes you angry or sad, don't play it. Play something else. Play something that makes you happy. I'm not saying don't give opinions and stuff like that. Of course, do that. And you can't stop people from giving opinions, right? So there's no point really even in addressing that. But I'm really kind of over the idea of people just getting caught up in all of the noise and their enjoyment of gaming hinging on the noise. And maybe whether they know it or not, them kind of getting caught up in the noise and enjoying the interaction with the noise more than they care about the game or anything really. That's maybe a subject for a whole different video, but I think I've stumbled through this enough. I hope that I've made a point or two that seems relevant or made some kind of sense. I want to know what you think about what I said and about your feeling in general of, maybe not our games not fun anymore, or our games not as fun as they used to be, which is so subjective. But what about for you? Are games as fun for you as they used to be? And what do you think your specific factors are, and whether they are or they aren't? And that's this video. Please subscribe to the channel, like this video, comment down below with your thoughts. Check me out on Twitter @BonDiesel. Check out my podcast, The EchoCast, on all podcast platforms and right here on YouTube. I'm doing interviews now as well. I've had Mark Dara, I've had Yannick, I've had Kate Hartfield most recently, and I've got a bunch of other great ones coming up. That's all I have for this one. So until next time.